Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It's a brand new week, time for a brand new theme. This one we're going to be looking at unknown gems, bands that are lesser known than some of the really big popular ones. Now, this is going to be a bit more subjective. Unlike in past times we've had similar themes, I did not have a specific criteria to what meant a band was hidden or unknown. So we will have a couple like Gazpacho that has 30,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. That's kind of a bigger deal, but it's also a rather unknown band. You don't hear about them very often, and honestly, outside of the couple of times we've checked them out on the channel, I've never heard the band name pop up at all anywhere. So that's where we're at with this. I will say though, towards the end of the week, we are going to have some bands that are sub 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, really unknown stuff. But I think that generally this week, most people are going to find bands that they've never heard of before. So kicking it off with Gazpacho though, we have a track called Black Lily that comes off of their 2012 album. I don't know what it's called. Well, it came off of a 2012 album. March of Ghosts, maybe? March of Ghosts. There it is. I don't know why I couldn't find that earlier. Let's dive into this and see what Gazpacho is bringing to the table today. A little bit of mystery here.
You hear me? I know you're wrong. Swim to me, then silent. All the endings that broke the rocks were lost to tides again. Hear the bells in deep hollow dungeons.
Very moody and atmospheric. A little bit of a Muse vibe so far. Yeah, dude, the lower voice supporting this, but also the violin off on the side. Very nice layering for this part. A cool little bass line down there at the bottom of this. So we had a gradual growth of energy. We hit a peak, brought it back down. We're going to build back up. Ooh. That's an interesting little rhythm from the drummer.
I just want to make you laugh again. In that deep hollow dungeon, gloriously walk, a pilgrim of valiance.
Given the interesting rhythmic element on that drum fill, I thought we were going to go into something a bit more explosive, especially using the splash cymbals there. I still love the bass line here though. It's interesting that rising pattern into the falsetto feels like it should be calming or reassuring, and kind of feels the opposite, where it becomes more sorrowful. It pushes towards more stability than the usual movement at the end of that phrase. But it still finds instability. I wonder if the chords are changing there. Oh. Oh? What? Well, we'll come to the ending soon. Maybe it'll make sense after I've talked through this song a little bit. This is a very moody track. We have a verse and a chorus and a little bit of a break, and then a verse and a chorus, and then the song's over. The verse is very heavy, very moody. There's a mysterious element to it, and at times maybe even an ominous element to it. It certainly feels like there is something to be questioned, something to be learned, but maybe a little danger lurking on the outskirts of this song. We also have, paired with that general chord progression that gives us those darker elements, we have a lot of slurred elements in the vocals. Do, 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 do. And those slides into those notes also feel just a little, I don't know, there's instability to them, not harmonic instability, but like pitch instability, where the note just can't be landed on. It has to slide into it, has to drip into that tone. It feels like it's a difficulty of sustaining a state. And I think a lot of that is this slide mixed with the atmosphere. Because a slide by itself doesn't necessarily indicate that. Sliding into notes can mean a lot of different things, depending on the atmosphere, the themes, the tones, all of this. For whatever reason, though, right here, it feels like instability. An inability to retain a state of form, a state of mind. But it does take us from a less stable note into a more stable note. We're sliding into something that is the home of the chord. So it's a transformation into something that feels natural. But there's still something slightly off about it, particularly in the framework of the darkness of the atmosphere, the moodiness of the atmosphere, the emptiness of the atmosphere. Like I had mentioned earlier, this heavily reminds me of Muse. And I think that much like Muse's music, this hits me in all the right places too. It is a perfect execution of atmosphere that isn't just on the harmonic side, but also in the tones of instruments, the way that melodies move. It's the total package. Everything is feeding into the atmospheric writing. From here, we build into the chorus. This is a larger section to the song. This gives us our two peaks in the track. We have more layers. We have more instruments. The instruments are louder. We have vocal layers. We have a violin. I love this. The bass comes in with a really strong bass line that sits underneath everything, gives us a nice low end resonance, but as larger as this feels, and it does feel like it wants to move towards a really positive, resonant ending, too. At the end of both of the choruses, we have this rising, escalating pitch into falsetto tone. There is something about this that feels like it wants to move towards resolution, total resolution, and even a type of beauty. The softness and airiness of the vocals are painting the picture of something gorgeous and light and pristine, but the note choices just don't. There's a schism here. Despite the rising pitch, despite the thinning of the vocal sounds, it kind of feels more tragic than ever. It's a really interesting combination because I feel both of these two things simultaneously in equal force. One side is more melancholic. The other side is positive and beautiful and joyful, reaching a point of total synergy. And we kind of get them simultaneously in a way that you can't separate them. And it's tough to know where they overlap and where the two different emotional elements stem from. Even during the reaction, I wasn't quite sure. Was it the melody? Were the chords changing? Is it the vocal delivery? Something about it creates this schism, this emotional division. And even at the end of the track, I don't know particularly what it was. What's interesting is that we do get a little bit of uh, tonal dissonance in the first chorus. There was a couple of guitar tones that I felt just slightly flat, creating a little bit of too much warble in the track that at first I thought was a mistake, possibly, but once the falsetto came in, I was like, oh no, they're kind of setting this up. The song, as stable as the atmosphere is kind of built on a shaky foundation. They continue to introduce these cracks into the music so that when you reach these peaks, instead of feeling complete here in these final falsetto notes of this melody line coming from the vocals, with the chord progression reaching its final moments as well, it feels like there's still more left to go. The cycle isn't over. The progression isn't complete. The journey isn't done. There's still more. This feels like a false ending. It looked like this was the finish line, but when we crossed the hurdle, we didn't feel fulfilled yet. There has to be more to this. After the first chorus, the energy dies down. It almost feels as if this lack of fulfillment bleeds into the music. What is just could be described as a normal rising and falling action in the music, I think works well because to me it conveys a sense of disappointment here. So we build back up. The verse, different this time around, but very similar to the first time. The chorus, once again, a couple of different changes, but also like 60-70% the same idea, multiple layers, vocal things, violin. We got this rising falsetto line at the end of it. But once again, it just doesn't feel complete. Something about it just isn't working. Except instead of dying down to start the song back again, we fade into black sonically and visually. The song just kind of stops being. The video fades to black, and it feels so anticlimactic after two moments that felt like they should be a point of finality, and neither were. The disappointment that comes from it the first time, having the energy to say, well, let's try it again. We'll change some things up, see if that addresses it, and then it doesn't. It almost feels like the song gives up then. Well, then screw it. Why am I even trying? We're not going to do this a third time. Let's just wrap it up and call it a day. And that feeling of giving up is, I don't know if it's what I felt in my gut when the song was over, but there's certainly something off. I couldn't figure out the song. The song reached this point of a false finality, implying that there's more, and then there just wasn't. The song just ceased to be. It really threw me off, but talking through it, I kind of get it now. I don't know if my read on this is the intentional read or even what they specifically wanted the song to feel like, but it is what I get out of it. Striving to be something, not really knowing where it's going to take you, but having the drive to try it out anyways. Failing, falling down, getting back up and trying again, only for that to also lead to failure and disappointment. At which point we just stop trying altogether. At least that's what the music says to me. Let me hit some lyrics on this one, then we'll wrap this video up. Lyrically, this is incredibly vague. Lots of metaphor upon metaphor, figurative language, and from what I can see, a bit of a disconnect from line to line, as if the person who wrote it could see the thread that tied all this together. This is a metaphor for this, and here's a different metaphor for that, a different metaphor for that. But without knowing what that one metaphor is that ties it all together, it just kind of jumps around a little bit. And I can't quite follow it. It starts off saying, "Can you hear me and know your own? Swim to me, this island, all of the endings that broke on rocks were lost to tides again." The endings that broke on rocks. Swimming to someone who is on an island. I've tried to piece this together into a concept of being alone and trying to rekindle some sort of companionship with people. I'm not entirely sure if that works, though. From here it says, "Hear the bells in deep hollow dungeons, in deep green seas. The pressure is from within. Struck down in the middle of a little life, star-spangled by the wayside as the trains roll by." So this line, "struck down in the middle of a little life," it lines up a little bit with the next stanza. It says, "Phantom pains and morphine, isn't that enough? Leaving cannot heal you. First try it with a kiss." This is the chorus here. Being struck down and having problems. Here in the first one, it says that they have phantom pains and they take morphine to help with that. And in the second chorus, though, it says, "Mercy, what can you do? Try to be a saint?" Wrapping it up again with, "Leaving cannot heal you. First try it with a kiss." Now, I wonder if leaving is supposed to be death. In which case we have somebody who is trying to reconnect someone who feels like they're on their deathbed, reconnect them with life, to give them a reason to live again. It says, "Swim to me, I'm on this island." It says, "Listen to the bells. There's a pressure from within you." The second verse kicks off with, "All of your troubles, small battles, so tired, on your ice cap, black lily, I just want to make you laugh again. In that deep, hollow dungeon, a glorious sleepwalk, a pilgrim of Valium, it's cold on this cloud." The idea of a glorious sleepwalk makes me wonder if, I don't know, it feels like a stretch, but maybe this other person's in a coma. A pilgrim of Valium is interesting. Valium is a very powerful painkiller, I believe. It's definitely a medical drug. But then talking about being cold on a cloud, it's different from being on an island previous. I get bits and pieces of this. It is told from the perspective of one person trying to help another and kind of coming to the end of their wits doing it. It hurts them, it breaks them down to see the other person like this, possibly even inviting death in some way because their state of life is just not that high. Their quality of life isn't that high. But there's so many lines in here that I feel a vague sense of meaning, and other lines that just completely go over my head. But I think a lot of that captures the feeling in this song musically, what I talked about. Trying your best to do something, kind of feeling like it's getting you somewhere, and then it doesn't. Assuming we can read this in linear fashion, we see a cycle. They try to help them, and then they see that they're just not wanting the help, or it doesn't improve their mood, or they're not laughing here, and they say maybe I should just leave. With the line, leaving can't heal you. That line shows up in both choruses. It is one of the lines that isn't changed, as if the person who is in this state continues to bring it up. And our narrator has to continue replying to that, leaving's not the answer. It does make the ending, though, possibly a little more bleak. Either the narrator gives up or the other person does. At least that's how I read it from a musical standpoint, especially with the penultimate line, mercy, what can you do? Try to be a saint? Almost as if asking, what more can I do to help this person? From a royal second person perspective, the royal you, what can you do? What can anyone do in this position? Really feeling frustrated with the whole situation is what that line says to me. But these are just my thoughts on Gazpacho's Black Lily. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own perspective, opinion, or take on this track? Please put all of that and any other thoughts you have down into the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, that wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.